Hey guys, so I think the United States is plagued by two great evils. The first one is racism, and the second one is main character syndrome. Racism is obvious. The reason I say the country is plagued by main character syndrome, because when I said racism and you got upset by that, you thought that was about you. That statement wasn't about you. I wasn't accusing you of being racist. Now you may say, I'm not racist. No one in my life is racist. What are you talking about? Here's the thing, guys. I don't drink alcohol, but I know drunk driving is a problem. I don't do opiates. No one I'm close to does opiates, but I know opiate deaths are a problem. So when I said racism is a problem and you instantly got offended, that's main character syndrome. This story is not about you. Now, what's interesting about the United States is that we have all these different races and how the races kind of interact with each other. It's not consistent. For example, there are a lot of people who come to the United States who aren't black or white and may have racist attitudes towards white people and black people. But those attitudes aren't necessarily the same. For example, I know plenty of people who are neither black or white, and they would like their kids to marry within their race. But if they were to marry someone who wasn't within their race, they would prefer it to be a white person than a black person. Another interesting aspect of racism in this country is a perceived fast track to being accepted as American is adopting anti-black attitudes. And when I say black, I mean specifically African American. This even is so much that other black people who are from the African diaspora or the continent of Africa will develop anti-African American attitudes, making it a point to separate themselves from African Americans. I'm Nigerian, I'm Ghanaian, I'm fill in the blank, but I'm not black. The people saying this are blacker than me. Another interesting aspect of racism in this country is what I call a tipping point. The tipping point's already been observed by demographers in the sense of when flight occurs. Flight is what you call it when neighborhoods have a certain population of a particular ethnic and racial group. And then when it reaches a certain point, usually speaking of whites, but it could technically be other groups decide to leave the neighborhood in substantial numbers. Thus the term white flight. So yeah, flight is basically synonymous with white flight. The tipping point of white flight is different for different races. There's a different threshold. The lowest threshold is black Americans. It takes a smaller percentage of black Americans to populate a neighborhood for white flight to start occurring than, let's say, Korean Americans. So I think right now the country's reaching a tipping point of Indians. I'm talking about people from Asia. There's a lot of anti-Indian attitudes being communicated in social media. And the fascinating thing about this is that it's being directed towards people who would be the least likely targets. Former Republican presidential candidate and current gubernatorial candidate of Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy, post pictures of his family at a beach. Tons of hateful comments saying, for example, he's teaching his kids how to shit on the beach. Vivek Ramaswamy was born in Ohio, but even if he had been born in New Delhi, that's racist. Kash Patel sends out a message saying Happy Diwali, a Hindu holiday, bombarded with racist comments. And now, probably one of the biggest pieces of shit in the world, convicted felon Dinesh D'Souza decides to defend Donald Trump's decision to tear down the East Wing and build a ballroom, and people within his own party attack him. And that's what makes it so strange, is that they're being attacked by people who are from their own political ideology. I say it's strange, but it's really not that strange if we're being honest with ourselves. So now I find myself defending people who I don't really like because I don't like racism. It's when I've made videos criticizing Israel and people decide to make anti-Semitic comments in the comment section. I have to delete those. A video here or there about the transatlantic slave trade, people make racist comments about white Americans, and I have to delete them. So now I wanted to make a video about this observation of this increase Indian bigotry. Now, there are plenty of black people who will say, look, Indians have a lot of racist attitudes towards black people. Yeah, and it's easy to observe a lot of Indians having anti-black attitudes, whether it's in the United States or whether it's the diaspora in Africa. The relationship between Indians and blacks hasn't really been the best. I'm not going to end racism with a stupid YouTube video. I'm not going to change people's minds, but I do think a lot of prejudice comes from not really knowing things. And I think to a lot of Americans, we really don't know about India. We don't know about their history. We really don't know about their culture. But the big thing is we don't know about the contributions that they've made to how we see the world. For example, if you consider yourself a student of philosophy, you've never read any of the Gitas, you don't know philosophy. And by the way, when I say India, I'm kind of referring to the subcontinent thinking about not just India, but Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal. It's people with a shared history. So as a math teacher, I want to teach one thing about India that you probably don't know. This may come off as corny or cheesy or as a joke. I'm being completely sincere. There is one invention of the Indians that you use every day, that you use every time you look at a clock, that you're not even aware of it. And that's the concept of zero. So what I want you to do is think about the Roman numerals. You're like, I don't know the Roman numerals. Well, I don't know, man. Think about the Super Bowl, how the Super Bowls are labeled. Now I want you to think about the Roman numeral 1. That's an I. Think about the Roman numeral 5. That's a V. And you may know that the Roman numeral 10 is an X. Now I want you to think about the Roman numeral 0. There is no Roman numeral 0. Because guess what? The Romans didn't have a concept of zero, and neither did the ancient Greeks. And in fact, European mathematicians weren't comfortable with the concept of zero. The idea of having a placeholder, a symbol representing the void of nothing, was uncomfortable to Western mathematicians. You know who felt comfortable with it? Indians. Call it a result of their religion, a result of their philosophy, their worldview. But the Indians had a concept of zero. And in fact, they introduced that concept of zero to Western mathematicians and scientists. So yeah, all these people who think they're better than Indians, your ancestors couldn't even come up with zero, but the Indians did. Yeah, and by the way, the numbers that you're using, you probably heard them referred to as Arabic numerals, but they're not actually Arabic numerals. They're Indian numerals. They were just brought over to Europe by Muslim traders from India. So yeah, every time you write a number down, you're using an Indian invention. I don't know, so maybe start appreciating Indians more.